In the mortal realm arc of a mortal's journey to immortality, Han Li's path to cultivation is fraught with thorns and surrounded by enemies. These 9 individuals, with whom he has forged deep grudges, either directly catalyze his inner demons or silently suffer the consequences, collectively painting a treacherous and realistic picture of the cultivation world. 9th, Wang Chan. A pursuit to the ends in vain. Inner demons lead to sect devastation. As Han Li's first formidable opponent after setting foot in the Qianan region, Wang Chan, the young master of the Ghost Spirit sect, is shrouded in an aura of arrogance and obsession from the very beginning. Upon their first encounter at Yang family fortress, he sees Han Li as a sitting duck, thus beginning a long hunt. Wang Chan's pursuit spans Han Li's years on the run, even bringing him close to success when Han Li's cultivation is severely damaged due to an unexpected encounter with Nangong Wan, and he is nearly at his death's doorstep. Wang Chan's figure almost overlaps with the shadow of death. However, in this desperate situation, Han Li activates a long-sealed ancient teleportation array, vanishing from Wang Chan's sight. This near defeat, like a poisonous thorn, was deeply buried in Wang Chan's heart, becoming a lingering resentment he couldn't shake off after returning to the Ghost Spirit sect. Years passed, and when the two met again at the ruins of Canquan Shangren's cave, the situation had completely reversed. Han Li was now a nascent soul cultivator, his cultivation surpassing Wang Chan's. In the life-or-death struggle within the cave, Wang Chan narrowly escaped death, almost losing his life at Han Li's hands. This shock and humiliation completely ignited his deep-seated inner demons, damaging his Dao heart and halting his cultivation progress. Even more devastatingly, the Ghost Spirit sect subsequently lost 2 nascent soul pillars during their exploration of the fallen Demon Valley, causing the sect's power to plummet. Fearing Han Li's possible retaliation, the Ghost Spirit sect's leadership was forced to make a cruel choice, to actively befriend Han Li, sacrificing Wang Chan in exchange for Han Li's promise to never destroy the Ghost Spirit sect's lineage. This once proud prodigy ultimately became a sacrifice for the sect's survival, falling tragically. His hatred began with arrogant pursuit and ended with the cold balancing act of sect interests, a tragedy crushed by the tides of time and ever-growing forces. 8th, Wu Chou. Relying on ancestral protection to show his brilliance, he dies in a shocking turn of events. Wu Chou, a descendant of the Extreme Yin island in the chaotic Star Sea, was a typical second-generation rich kid. Backed by the powerful Extreme Yin ancestor, he acted with considerable recklessness in the seas. His first encounter with Han Li stemmed from a hunting mission for the infant carp beast organized by the 6 linked halls. At that time, Han Li was still a cautious, low-level cultivator. During the mission conflict, he decisively killed his opponent and fled 1,000 miles away, thus incurring Wu Chou's wrath. Later, Han Li clashed with Wu Chou's forces again while assisting Fairy Ziling in her revenge, narrowly escaping from Wu Chou, who was possessed by the Extreme Yin ancestor's divine sense. The opening of the Void Heaven Hall pushed the feud between the two sides to its climax. Upon their reunion in the palace, Wu Chou initially intended to immediately eliminate this persistent and who had repeatedly provoked him. However, his master, the Extreme Yin ancestor, having witnessed Han Li's tamed blood jade spider, a key to seizing the Void Heaven Palace's treasure, forcibly took Han Li as a nominal disciple. Despite his immense resentment and jealousy, Wu Chou could only temporarily accept this junior brother. Ironically, before Wu Chou could find an opportunity to personally eliminate his own nemesis, a chaotic battle for the treasure erupted at the heart of the Void Heaven Palace. The Extreme Yin ancestor, preoccupied with the heaven-mending pill, had no time to spare, and Wu Chou was caught in the chaos, seized upon by the Xianjiyu Shangren, who harbored a deep hatred for the Extreme Yin, and swiftly killed. His hatred, mixed with the jealousy of having his master's attention stolen and the helplessness of his own inferior strength, was ultimately extinguished silently in a larger vortex of conspiracy and revenge. 7th, Ancestor Ji Yin. All his scheming came to naught. His physical body was destroyed, and his nascent soul was imprisoned. Ancestor Ji Yin's hatred for Han Li was like poisonous oil on a hot fire, intense and enduring. His trip to the Void Heaven Palace was a complete nightmare. Not only was the Void Heaven Cauldron he so desperately wanted stolen, but even his direct descendant and capable assistant, Wu Chou, perished within the palace. Although he initially suspected Xianjiyu Shangren, Han Li, his newly accepted and strange disciple, was also on his suspicion list. With the treasure lost and his successor killed, Ji Yin's resentment towards Han Li was unimaginable. After leaving the Void Heaven Palace, Ji Yin did not give up. He joined forces with Miao Hezhenren and others to search for Han Li's whereabouts throughout the chaotic Star Sea, vowing to extract his soul and refine his spirit. However, time in the cultivation world is both ruthless and impartial. When the two met again, Han Li was no longer the naive boy he once was. His growth far exceeded Ji Yin's expectations. In a fierce battle, the ancestor of Extreme Yin was no match for Han Li. His physical body was destroyed, leaving only his nascent soul to flee in panic. Even more humiliating was that Han Li later captured his nascent soul, not for his own cultivation or to forge magical treasures, but as a bargaining chip, giving it to the barbarian with whom Extreme Yin had a past grudge. From a sect's patriarch and a nascent soul expert, reduced to a goods for others to trade, Extreme Yin's hatred and despair were deeply ingrained, becoming a footnote to his many evil deeds in his early years. 6. Feng Xi, a great benefactor who gave treasure and then gave his life, his rage turned to ashes. The level 9 demon beast Feng Xi can be considered an unconventional benefactor on Han Li's path to immortality. This transformed demon cultivator initially had no good intentions towards Han Li. He kidnapped Han Li only because he coveted his pure wood attribute spiritual power, intending to use it to forge the wind and thunder wings, a rare treasure. His plan was that the day the forging was completed would be the day Han Li died, his body used to feed a turtle demon and a poisonous dragon. To prolong Han Li's spiritual power, he even generously helped Han Li temporarily raise his cultivation to the mid-stage of core formation, making the most of his tool status. However, Han Li's possession of the rare 10,000-year-old spiritual liquid caught Feng Xi completely off guard. Not only did Han Li seize the newly refined wind and thunder wings amidst the chaos, but he also casually killed the poisonous flood dragon. Feng Xi's rage instantly reached its peak, his painstakingly crafted treasure was stolen, his general was killed, and he could hardly explain himself to the higher-ranking Golden Flood Dragon King. This hatred drove him to later join forces with the Golden Flood Dragon King, carrying the dragon scale fruit tree, which had a deadly attraction for body cultivators, and its transplantation method, meticulously setting a trap to ambush and kill Han Li. Ironically, this trap ultimately turned into a gift-giving ceremony. The dragon scale fruit tree, the transplantation secret method, and even Feng Xi's own life were all gifted to Han Li. Feng Xi may never have known Han Li's real name until his death. His hatred stemmed from the immense humiliation of being schemed against by a low-level cultivator and his inability to explain himself to the Demon King. Ultimately, this hatred led to Han Li's wind and thunder wings and his body refining opportunity. 5th, second nascent soul nourished by the demon banner, it harbors a disloyal heart, backlashes against its original body, and is ultimately destroyed. Han Li's second nascent soul was originally a clone he created to enhance his strength and provide an extra layer of protection. However, in the extreme predicament of being hunted by the Heavenly Maiden and her forces on the heavenly plains, Han Li took a risky gamble, using a strategy of dividing and luring the pursuers away. The second nascent soul suffered severe damage as a result. To recover, it absorbed a large amount of pure demonic energy from the ghost banner. Unexpectedly, under the influence of the demonic energy, it gradually developed independent intelligence and a strong self-awareness. This newly born consciousness saw its original body, Han Li, as its greatest constraint and threat. It hated its original body, which had placed it in danger, and attempted to control it tightly, and was determined to break free completely, even to take over. It represents the uncontrolled, rebellious dark side of Han Li's power, an outward manifestation of his inner demons. The struggle between the two is Han Li's war against his own shadow. Although the second nascent soul is cunning and powerful, Han Li's Tao heart is firm, and his plans are deeper. After many twists and turns, Han Li finally succeeds in finding and subduing this rebellious clone, ruthlessly erasing its newly formed intelligence and regaining control. This hatred, originating from within himself, is like a mirror, reflecting the complex truth of the path of cultivation, where power and risk coexist, and external forces and inner demons intertwine. 4th, Yinluo sect master, his wife's death and the destruction of his sect, his banner bringing calamity and self-inflicted disaster. The Yinluo sect master's hatred for Han Li stems from a massive war that affected the entire Qiannan region. At that time, the Yinluo sect allied with the sorcerers of the Mulan grassland, sending high-ranking cultivators from within the sect to assist the Mulan people in attacking Qiannan. In this great battle, Han Li descended like a god of war, single-handedly slaying 3 nascent soul cultivators from the Yinluo sect, one of whom was the sect leader's Daoist partner. The pain of losing his wife, coupled with the heavy losses of the sect's high-level combat power, fueled the Yinluo sect leader's boundless hatred for Han Li, making him determined to eliminate him. However, before he could recover from the blow of defeat and organize revenge, Han Li proactively came to his door. The reason was that the Yinluo sect had forged multiple powerful but heinous ghost banners. Such large-scale forging was against the will of heaven and earth, and it also had a certain restraint or attraction effect on Han Li's subsequent cultivation techniques. To eliminate future threats, or perhaps to obtain materials for forging the main banner, Han Li directly attacked the Yinluo sect's headquarters. The result was that almost all of the Yinluo sect's high-ranking officials were wiped out, and their lineage was severed. The sect leader's hatred was a mixture of grief over the loss of his spouse and despair at the destruction of his sect's foundation. The root of this tragedy, to some extent, lay in the sect's own obsession with crafting evil artifacts and its involvement in large-scale conquests. Third, Master Gui, a feud born on the grasslands, his nascent soul flees, and he remains fearful and unspeakable. Master Gui of the Chenlan grasslands harbored a deep grudge against Han Li stemming from an unexpected encounter. While Han Li was secretly cultivating gold-eating insects on the grasslands, Master Gui inadvertently discovered him. To maintain secrecy, Han Li launched a deadly attack. Although Master Gui's physical body was destroyed, his nascent soul managed to escape using a secret technique, thus incurring the wrath of the Chenlan grasslands forces and leading to a relentless and intense pursuit of Han Li. Master Gui's nascent soul was severely damaged in this ordeal, nearly annihilated. He only managed to stabilize his injuries and slowly recover with the help of other great immortal masters. With his physical body destroyed and his cultivation path almost severed, his hatred for Han Li was unimaginable. However, this hatred was mixed with a deep fear. He clearly understood that if he encountered Han Li alone again, the latter would not give him any chance to escape. Therefore, even if he survived by chance, Master Gui could only bury this hatred deep in his heart for the rest of his life, never daring to easily provoke Han Li, who had grown into a ruthless star. His hatred was the fear and helplessness of the weak after surviving a powerful threat, a bitter microcosm of the cultivation world's law of strength above all else. Second, Chenlan Saintess Lin Yinping Sacred Beast and Sacred Cauldron change hands. Repeated pursuits endure unresolved hatred. As the Saintess of the Chenlan grassland, Lin Yinping's pursuit of Han Li initially stemmed from the importance of the gold-eating insect cultivation method to the grassland's sacred beasts. She used her authority as a saintess to summon an avatar of the Chenlan sacred beast, carrying the precious sacred cauldron, to launch a long pursuit of Han Li, spanning most of Chenlan and even deep into the Great Jin dynasty. However, this pursuit became a journey that resulted in the loss of both her face and resources. During the pursuit, Han Li not only repeatedly escaped her intricate traps, but also, in a direct confrontation, used the mysteries of the Void Heaven Cauldron to seize both the sacred cauldron she possessed and the avatar of the Heavenly Azure Sacred Beast. This was a tremendous loss for the Heavenly Azure grassland and a heavy blow to Lin Yinping's personal prestige. Afterwards in the Great Jin dynasty, Han Li continued to escape successfully right under her nose on numerous occasions. It wasn't until the earth-shattering event at Kunwu Mountain, when Lin Yinping was in dire straits, that Han Li intervened and saved her life. Despite her lingering resentment towards Han Li for stealing her treasure and her subsequent defeats, reality told her that continuing to be her enemy was unwise. Her hatred, intertwined with the pressure of repeated mission failures, the heartache of losing her precious treasures, and the complex shame of being rescued, ultimately transformed into a bitter pill she had to swallow in the face of the disparity in strength and the debt of gratitude for being saved. First, old demon who his nascent soul face slandered, he watches his concubine trade for freedom. Old demon who, one of the few nascent soul cultivators in the mortal realm, was already a figure standing atop the clouds, looking down upon all living beings. His hatred for Han Li stemmed more from the anger of a humiliated face and the resentment of being forced to compromise. It all began when Han Li accompanied Slong Jili to old demon Hu's concubine-taking ceremony, only to discover that one of the new concubines was none other than his old friend, Fairy Zi Ling. Witnessing his beloved woman become another's concubine, Han Li was filled with resentment. He mustered his courage and proposed a deal to old demon Hu. He would accept one of old demon Hu's attacks in exchange for Zi Ling's freedom, using the incredibly rare Frosty Marrow. At first, old demon Hu might have dismissed this as the utter nonsense of an ant, but Han Li not only actually withstood his attack, which contained the power of a nascent soul cultivator even if he might have held back, but also unleashed the Frosty Marrow, a power that even nascent soul cultivators coveted. More importantly, other nascent soul cultivators, such as Slong Jili, were present as witnesses, an old demon who had previously agreed to Han Li's bet. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, old demon Hu, though extremely unwilling, had no choice but to give away his newly acquired beautiful concubine in order to maintain the face and credibility of a nascent soul cultivator. For this nascent soul old monster, who was used to getting whatever he wanted, this was tantamount to being slapped in the face in public. His hatred stemmed from the displeasure of his supreme authority being slightly challenged, the failure to weigh the gains and losses between treasures and beauty, and, more importantly, the inability to refuse resources related to ascension, such as the cold marrow, due to the depletion of resources in the human realm. If it weren't for the presence of other nascent soul cultivators creating a delicate balance, Han Li's actions would undoubtedly have been extremely risky. Old Demon Hu's frustration became a legendary footnote to Han Li's skillful maneuvering among nascent soul old monsters while still in the nascent soul stage. These 9 grudges spanned Han Li's long cultivation journey from Qi refining to the eve of nascent soul. These are not merely simple antagonistic relationships, but rather mirrors reflecting the cruel laws of the cultivation world in A Record of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality, the naked struggle for resources, the truth of strength above all else, the coldness of sectarian interests, the dangers of inner demons, and the different forms of hatred manifested at different realms and from different perspectives, from the arrogance and resentment of Wang Chan and Wu Chou to the failed schemes of Ji Yin and Feng Xi, to the backlash of the second nascent soul, the destruction of the Yinluo sect, the fear of Master Gui, the helplessness of Lin Yinping, and even the loss of face for Old Demon Hu. Each rise and fall of these grudges propelled Han Li to become stronger, more cautious, and to gain a deeper understanding of the world's operating logic. It was in the process of resolving or ending these grudges that Han Li gradually shed his naivete and grew into a true powerhouse capable of controlling his own destiny. The hatred of these enemies ultimately became stepping stones on his path to immortality, serving as both warnings and encouragement.